Like, comment, share, and subscribe now, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a chilling reminder that evil sometimes wears the friendliest mask. You'll want to sit back, get comfortable, and pay attention to every detail. Because the truth of this case is stranger than most fiction. People always say that evil wears a mask, but no one ever tells you how ordinary that mask can look, how it doesn't stand out, how it doesn't feel threatening, how it can sit in your living room, laugh at your jokes, scroll through your phone with you, and never give you a single reason to be afraid. Investigators would later admit that the most disturbing part of this case wasn't the crime itself, but how normal everything seemed right before it happened. The texts, the smiles, the trust. Nothing about this story screamed danger, and that's exactly why it still haunts people today. In the summer of 2012, 16-year-old Skylar Neese lived in a quiet town in West Virginia where everyone knew everyone. This wasn't a place where people locked their doors out of fear. Neighbors waved at each other. Kids grew up together from kindergarten all the way to graduation. Parents believed their children were safe because the town felt safe. Serious crime was something that happened somewhere else on the news, in big cities. Far away from places like this, Skylar fit right into that world. She was bright, social, and deeply loyal to the people she cared about. She loved music, hanging out with friends, telling jokes, and staying up late talking about life. She laughed easily. She trusted deeply. Like most teenagers, she believed the people closest to her wanted the best for her. And like most teenagers, she couldn't imagine that danger would ever come from the people she trusted most. Her family described her as kind-hearted, fiercely independent, and endlessly curious. She asked questions. She thought deeply. She cared about how other people felt. She had dreams that stretched far beyond the small town she grew up in. She talked about college, about traveling, about building a life that felt bigger and more meaningful. Her bedroom reflected that, posters of musicians on the walls, photos of friends taped to mirrors, notebooks filled with doodles, thoughts, and plans she hadn't shared yet. Every corner of that room told the story of a young girl still figuring out who she was becoming. Her parents were proud of her. They trusted her. They gave her freedom because she had earned it. Of course they worried sometimes, all parents do, but Skylar had never given them a reason to believe she wasn't safe. She checked in. She followed rules. She cared about their trust. For a long time, everything felt normal. Skylar's closest friends were two girls she had known for years. These weren't new friendships. These weren't casual friendships. These were the people she trusted. With her secrets, her fears, and her late-night thoughts. They shared inside jokes, sleepovers, long conversations, and dreams about the future. Teachers called them inseparable. Parents trusted them without hesitation. To everyone watching, they were just three girls growing up together. Skylar believed that friendship would last forever. She believed loyalty meant protection. She believed the people who laughed with her would never hurt her. And for a long time, there was no reason to question that belief. From the outside, nothing seemed wrong. They were always together. They talked constantly. They acted like best friends. But friendships, especially teenage friendships, can be intense in ways adults often underestimate. Emotions run high, boundaries blur, small resentments can grow quietly. That summer, the trio spent long evenings walking through town, listening to music, and talking about everything that felt important at the time. Skylar opened up. She talked about worries about school, about feeling misunderstood, about life after high school. She talked about her hopes. She talked about her fears. She felt safe doing that. She trusted the people she was with. She believed they cared about her the way she cared about them. She didn't know that beneath the smiles, something darker was taking shape. Just after midnight one night in July, Skylar was still awake in her bedroom. The house was quiet. Her parents were asleep just down the hall, believing their daughter was safe in the room she had slept in for years. Nothing about the night felt urgent. Nothing felt dangerous. It wasn't a night filled with panic or fear. It was just another summer night. Skylar checked her phone. This wasn't unusual. This wasn't reckless. She had done this before. She moved carefully, not because she was scared, but because she didn't want to wake anyone. The glow of the screen lit her face as she sent a final message. Casual. Normal. Nothing that would ever suggest something was wrong. She opened her bedroom window. The same window she had climbed through before. The same routine she trusted. Outside, the street was empty. No headlights. No voices. Just the quiet hum of a town fast asleep. Skylar climbed down and landed softly. She wasn't running away. She wasn't afraid. She was meeting friends. A car was waiting nearby. Inside were the two people she trusted most. They weren't strangers. They weren't suspicious figures hiding in the dark. They were familiar faces. People she had laughed with, cried with, and trusted completely. She got into the car. The doors closed. And just like that, everything changed. The car pulled away slowly, quietly, blending into the empty streets. No one looked twice. To anyone watching, it would have looked like three teenagers going for a late-night drive. Inside her house, her parents slept peacefully, unaware that this was the last time Skylar would ever leave that room. The last time she would walk those streets. The last time she would feel safe with the people beside her. There were no screams, no struggle, no sudden moment where everything obviously went wrong. Just a car disappearing into the darkness, and that silence would stretch far longer than anyone could imagine. By morning, Skylar was gone. At first, her parents tried to stay calm. Teenagers ran away sometimes. They told themselves she might be upset, that she would come back. But something felt wrong almost immediately. Skylar hadn't taken her phone charger, her favorite. Clothes were still in her room. Even her toothbrush hadn't moved. She hadn't left a note. And Skylar had never gone long without checking in. Calls went unanswered. Texts were ignored. As the hours passed, worry turned into fear. By the end of the day, panic had fully set in. This didn't feel like a runaway situation. This felt like something else. Days passed. Flyers were taped to telephone poles, storefronts, and car windows. Candlelight vigils filled the streets. Skylar's parents went on television, their voices shaking as they pleaded for their daughter to come home. They spoke directly to the camera, hoping Skylar might see it, hoping someone might know something. And through all of it, Skylar's two closest friends stayed close to the family. They cried with them, hugged them, comforted them. They posted messages online, acting like worried friends desperate for answers. Everything about their behavior looked compassionate, normal, supportive. But investigators began to notice small things, tiny inconsistencies, stories that shifted slightly each time they were told, timelines that didn't quite line up, details that felt often, ways that were hard to explain. Nothing obvious, nothing concrete, just enough to make experienced detectives pause. Police pulled phone records. They recovered deleted messages. What they found didn't match the fear everyone else was seeing. There was no panic, no desperation. Some messages were casual, detached, almost indifferent. It was subtle, but it mattered. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered notes and journal entries that revealed something far more disturbing. Weeks of planning, dates, locations, thoughts written down not in anger, not in revenge, but with curiosity, cold curiosity, the kind that doesn't recognize another person as a person. Slowly, the pieces began to come together. Phone tower data placed the car where it shouldn't have been. Witnesses remembered small details that suddenly mattered. Lies began to collapse under their own weight. The picture that emerged was impossible to ignore. Skylar hadn't been taken by a stranger. She hadn't run away. She had been betrayed by the people she trusted most. What shocked investigators even more was the motive, or rather, the lack of one. There was no argument that night. No dramatic fallout. No jealousy anyone could clearly point to. One of the girls would later admit the reason was curiosity. They wanted to know what it felt like to take a life. That was it. That was the explanation. To them, Skylar was no longer a person. She was an idea. An experiment. Psychologists later explained that this level of emotional detachment is associated with psychopathy and inability to empathize, to feel guilt, or to understand the value of human life the way most people do. Two individuals like this. People aren't people. They're objects, variables in a private experiment. The trial was agonizing. Skylar's parents waited for remorse that never truly came. The community struggled to understand how something so dark could exist beneath such ordinary appearances. Teachers, neighbors, classmates, everyone asked the same question. How did no one see it? Media coverage was intense. The case was dissected again and again. Psychologists appeared on television trying to explain how young people could commit such a crime without obvious warning signs. Star City became a symbol of grief, disbelief, and broken trust. Even after sentencing, the damage didn't end. Parents watched their children differently. Teenagers questioned friendships they once believed were unbreakable. The town was changed forever. Skylar's room remains preserved just as she left it. Photos still line the walls. Her dreams, her laughter, her voice live on only in memory. Her family chose to speak publicly, hoping awareness might save someone else, hoping someone might recognize warning signs Skylar never had a chance to see. Every investigator, every psychologist, every person who hears this story is left with the same haunting question: how well do we really know the people closest to us? What secrets hide behind smiles, inside cars, in conversations we never question? Skylar's story reminds us that danger doesn't always look dangerous. Sometimes it looks familiar. Sometimes it looks like friendship. Sometimes it sits right beside you, laughing, texting goodnight, pretending to care. And if this story stayed with you, if it made your chest feel tight or your stomach turn, then you understand why these stories matter. Like the video, share it, subscribe, because there are more stories like this, darker ones, closer ones. Skylar's story is only one example of a reality many of us don't want to accept. Sometimes, the person you trust the most is the one you should fear, and the next story is waiting.